And welcome into the Monday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend. We hope your turkey was good. Hope you enjoyed some time with friends and family. And welcome back to the work week. Welcome back to Robbie and Rexrode here this morning. Joe Rexrode, you've been all over the place this weekend. How we doing? What's going on?
Yeah, welcome to December too. Oh boy,
That too.
It's been an eventful time. A lot of driving, car battery that no longer functions, so that's fun. But still took the other one down to Knoxville and saw something I was very surprised to see Saturday.
Yes, that would be two of us. Ian Safar, how we doing? What's going on?
Well, I picked Vandy.
Attaboy.
So no, that's mostly just because I wanted to root for them to win, and they did. But it was good, man.
Thank you for pointing that out.
It was a nice, relaxing weekend. Had a few days off with the fam. Yeah, it was good to get to the in-laws for a day, hang out there. Wish it was a little bit warmer. Took the family to the Preds game on Saturday.
Yep, that didn't go well.
Nice.
They looked terrible versus Winnipeg, so that was fun. But overall, it was great. Thankful for everything, and hope all the listeners had a good, relaxing week.
Boy, if you were the trio, which I know a lot of people around here are, of a Vols, Preds, and Titans fan this weekend, golly Bob, did you have a nice weekend there? That was good stuff from those teams that they put out there. Lots going on this weekend. We had all that. Joe, we had the Lane Kiffin drama. You know, Marty Smith going through airport security and getting him before he gets on the plane yesterday. Hey, Coach, I weaved around the security guard over there. Can you give me 5 minutes to talk, please? A lot of stuff going
Coach,
on.
I told you I would do hot yoga with you anytime you wanted.
Why does LSU make the most sense for you right now, Coach?
I saw a video of Marty shotgunning a beer
I'm sure
on
he did.
social this weekend too.
Yeah.
So I don't know when that went down, but he was thrown down.
Hey.
Wait, so he shotgunned a beer this weekend?
I don't know if it was this weekend, but I saw a video of him doing it.
He probably
So-
did. He was in Oxford for a long time.
I couldn't tell you when the video was taken, but it was the first time I've seen it. He was shotgunning a beer, yeah, with his full suit on and everything.
Well,
It's funny you bring up shotgunning beers because we had Thanksgiving in Michigan because Jack, our oldest, couldn't get out of work, and apparently some of the kids who they were just hanging out in the basement away from us were shotgunning beers. So that's nice. That's always a nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We're at that stage of life now.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. You found some cans all holed out. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, what's happening here?
Good times.
So we are going to get into the Titans and the Jaguars. That will happen in the show today at some point. I will say, we were talking about this in our extensive pre-show meeting yesterday. This is probably the least amount we're going to talk about the Titans on an NFL, like after a game they played on a Sunday, that I could remember. Because frankly, if you watched the game yesterday, you could pretty much copy and paste anything you've watched from the Titans for the most part over the last 3 years, except somehow yesterday seemed to be a little bit worse. So we are going to get into that throughout the show today. We will get into the Titans. Corey Curtis will be with us at 8 o'clock. But we're going to start on Vanderbilt and Tennessee. Vanderbilt, a 45-24 thumping of the Tennessee Volunteers on the road. It was tied up at the half. It was 21-all at halftime. And then a totally dominant second half by Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores. Pavia ends up 18 of 28, 268 yards through the air, 1 touchdown pass, had the 2 picks, which were basically the only mistakes that Vanderbilt's offense made the entire day. And then another 165 yards on the ground for Pavia as well. Joe, it's the first 10-win season in history for Vanderbilt. The college football playoff part of this we will get to throughout the show today. The Heisman Trophy conversation with Diego Pavia we will get to throughout the show as well. But what a thumping Vanderbilt laid on Tennessee in the second half of that game. And, Joe, I knew when it was 21-all at halftime, you figured that Tennessee would keep scoring on offense. But I did look at some people I was watching the game with, and I was like, the fact that Pavia has thrown 2 picks and they still found a way to end this up 21-21 at halftime probably ain't good news for Tennessee. And boy, was it not good news for Tennessee.
Yeah, no, the ability of Vanderbilt, because Pavia ends up with a 250, 150 game, 250 plus, I think 253 passing and 168 rushing, which is basically like Tim Tebow, Jaden Daniels, Johnny Manziel. Like these are the players in the SEC who have done that in recent history. But it was also like just Cedric Alexander just running wild. I mean, Vanderbilt running for more than 300 yards, 580 total yards.
Yep.
So it was Pavia running the whole show, but just up front, what Vanderbilt did. I mean, I was surprised. Again, Tennessee has had struggles, as we've talked about this year. I mean, you come away from this game on the Tennessee side, that was an embarrassing, defensive performance, and it's been bad stopping the run this year, been mostly bad overall, but not this bad. I mean, I and certainly, like you said, I figured it would just be a tit for tat, scoring fest all the way to the end. Vanderbilt got some stops, and it just got out of hand. I never would have guessed at any point this year watching both of those teams that Vanderbilt would, win by 21 points in Knoxville.
Yeah, crazy game for Vanderbilt. And like you said, defensively, Tennessee didn't have the ball all that much first off in the second half, particularly the third quarter. I mean, they barely had the ball at all in the third quarter. I think they went 3 and out on their first possession in the third quarter, and Vanderbilt held the ball for like 12 minutes of that third quarter. It was crazy, the amount of time that they had the ball. And really, I think, Joe, the middle part of the game, right before halftime, and then coming out on your first drive of the second half, if you're Vanderbilt, that's where the game flipped. Like they came back, they tied the game. There was the roughing the passer call that Tennessee fans were upset about, but I thought McMurray hit Pavia right in the helmet, and you're going to get that called. So it was a roughing the passer call. They scored the touchdown instead of the field goal, and then they come out on their first drive after halftime and score again, and that's where the game flipped, Joe. Like it was, they won kind of that middle 8 of the game, and boy, was that important.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm with you. I mean, it's one of those when you watch in slow mo that was obviously a huge call. That's the difference between a field goal. That's a 4-point difference, a 4-point call basically. When you watched the replay, it looked like, kind of ticky-tack. In real time, again, this is when the official calls it, and it's not reviewable. It looked like a launch to the head, I mean, again, it turned like the level of contact was not high, but yeah, I didn't think that was, I don't think that's out of line with how plays like that are called. But that was a huge play. I mean, you have that play, you have Matthews dropping the touchdown pass. There's some moments in there where that turned out to be key, and then at some point it just I think you hit on it though. This is what Vanderbilt does: is they just get 4, and then they get 4, and then they get 3, and then it's first down, and then they get 6, and then they get 3, and then they get 2. It's and then they'll get you for chunk plays too, but like the possession of the ball.
Yep.
It is very frustrating. It has to be to play against Vanderbilt, and the way that they just constantly stay ahead of the chains and constantly give themselves third and manageable where the whole playbook is available to them. And that definitely happened to the Vols in that third quarter.
Well, and again, this was not a fluke. Like if you watch the game, Vanderbilt was the better team. I mean, the only 2 stops Tennessee made all day were when Diego Pavia threw the ball directly to him. I mean, they didn't come close to stopping Vanderbilt after that. I mean, the first play in the red zone, it's 3rd and long. It's just not a very good decision by Diego Pavia. Redmond had pretty nice coverage on the second pick and made a good play to turn around and find the ball. So that's a good defensive play. That's probably the one good defensive play that Tennessee made all day. Other than that, Vanderbilt did anything and everything that they wanted to do on the offensive side of the ball. So, like, I watched it. Like I said, when it got to halftime and it was 21 all, I was like, well, he just threw 2 picks, which he doesn't do, and it's still tied at halftime. That is not good for Tennessee, and I think that shows you, Joe, it was not a fluke. Like, Vanderbilt totally kicked their butt in this game.
Yeah. No, they did. And listen, Vanderbilt, and I know we're going to get into all the playoff stuff. Tell me what offense in college football you like better. I mean, I think I would pick Vanderbilt's offense. Like the best defense in college football is Ohio State. You know, anybody who watched them against Michigan, that is legitimately the best defense in college football. They got high picks all over the place, like they always do. If I had to pick a team to go up against them offensively, I think I'd pick Vanderbilt. Now, I'm not saying that the overall matchup, the other side of the ball be tough matchup for Vanderbilt against Ohio State and that ridiculous offense, but that's the offense is legitimately that good. And you're talking about basically a 40-point a game offense against, even though the overall schedule for Vanderbilt, obviously didn't turn out to be as great as it looked, and it's going to hurt them in the playoff thing. Like the defenses they played, a lot of really good ones, and yet they're a 40-point a game team.
615-737-1025, our phone number, off and running on Robby and Rexrode. Vanderbilt thumps Tennessee on the road in Knoxville. They get their first 10-win season of the year. By the way, while we were gone over the break as well, they also extended their coach. We'll get into that as well. And now the college football playoff discussion waits for Vanderbilt. Do they have a shot of getting in this thing? We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Diego, this is going to go down as the greatest football season in the history of Vanderbilt University. What does that mean to you?
Well, I remember telling people at the beginning of the year what we were going to do, how it was going to happen. People laughed at us, didn't believe in us, thought we didn't have this, you know? And so I think it's a testament to these guys, how hard they worked, and the transfer portal.
You hit that Heisman pose in the corner of the end zone a little bit earlier. What does that mean?
Take me to New York, you know? I feel like you go look at the numbers, you look at what we got here. And obviously we did something that's never been done. But it's just a blessing, man, to be here on this stage, something I've dreamed about since I was a kid. Look at this. Come here, John Brody. This is the best center in the league, man. Heisman. The best center. Heisman.
Hey, they know what's going on.
We got something special here. And what we say is, come watch the show. Stay for the party on Broadway.
That's Diego Pavia after the 45-24 win for Vanderbilt against Tennessee. So now the question, Joe, is what does it mean for the college football playoff? It's a very impressive performance by Vanderbilt on the road at Tennessee. Frankly, it's a very impressive performance to end the season for Vanderbilt. I mean, their offense is playing, clearly the best that it's played all year. Their defense, I know that they've played Kentucky, and we'll get to them, I'm sure, at some point later in the show as well. But Tennessee's offense, pretty darn good offense, and boy, did they stifle them in the second half this weekend. So what does it mean for the college football playoff? Now, Joe, they didn't get a whole lot of help this weekend. Iron Bowl was interesting for a while. Auburn tied that thing up at 20 in the fourth quarter, but Alabama ends up winning the game by a touchdown. Frankly, it doesn't really help them that Texas beat Texas A&M, because that's going to be a conversation now of a 9-3 Texas team with the schedule that they played, and now you end the season with a win against Texas A&M. I know they're 9-3, but they did beat Vanderbilt head-to-head. So, I don't know if either one of those teams are going to get in, but it doesn't help you that they won that game. And Utah wins around the country. I guess, Michigan lost, so that's good. So you avoided total chaos. It looked like Oklahoma was on the ropes for a minute, but they end up coming back to win against LSU. So, Joe, where do you sit on Vanderbilt and the college football playoff as we still have to wait on what shakes out on conference championship weekend as well?
Yeah, I don't think they're getting in. Tomorrow's the key. The committee, to me, should look at what they just did to Tennessee and should reassess some things and should give them credit. Again, two teams have done this to a Josh, and I know that this is a multi-year thing I'm talking about, but this is something that to me belongs in the discussion. People don't do this at Tennessee. Oklahoma goes in there and gets all kinds of mistakes and sneaks out with a win. Georgia goes in there and Tennessee misses a field goal and Georgia wins in overtime. Two teams have done this to Tennessee in Josh Heupel's tenure. Georgia twice have gone in there and kicked their butt. They don't get their butts kicked at home under Josh Heupel unless it's those two. And again, that was 21-23, right?
Yeah,
when Georgia came in there. This win should speak loudly about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's performance, Vanderbilt's offense should speak loudly in favor of Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia, I've said this before, but if you do this like the basketball committee does it, there's absolutely a premium put on. Does this team have a player who can elevate a team and can beat teams, can lead a team to win? I know basketball is different than football. It's only 5 on the floor. But, for example, Steph Curry and Davidson, there's a million examples, right, of one great player elevating a team and going on a run. I think that the Pavia discussion should be part of it too. But when it comes down to it, Robbie, the two games that were – Utah, I think Vanderbilt will be past them. But after this, I think – maybe I'm wrong.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I shouldn't assume anything. They absolutely should be. But the two games are the ones you said. If Bama or Oklahoma were to have lost, that would have opened the door. Yep. And both were so close to losing. Oklahoma, like I said last week, Oklahoma has screwed this whole thing up. And they've screwed the whole thing up for the country, by the way, because we're going to have to watch freaking Oklahoma in the playoff, and they're boring as hell. And they're not. Their
offense sucks.
They suck. And they're great defense, but it's just, I mean, if you polled college football fans who had watched both teams, maybe they wouldn't know. But if they have watched them, like you think about the difference in experience of watching Oklahoma in this playoff or Vanderbilt in this playoff. I mean, it's miles apart. But they're not. Vanderbilt's not going to pass them because Oklahoma has the win at Alabama. I mean, that's the difference. They got beat more soundly than Vanderbilt did by Texas.
Yeah.
But the win at Alabama screwed it up. I mean, it's just some things, like so many things went the only way that they could have to keep Vanderbilt out of the playoff, but I just don't see how they're going to get in.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really hard. Like, you know, I mean, the one thing I keep coming back, I know I've been beating this drum for like 5 weeks now, but again, I know that Notre Dame has 2 good losses, but you're going to have to explain to me what they've done. Like, I know they kicked crap out of Syracuse, and they beat a Pittsburgh team on the road that, as we found out this weekend, is not very good. Like, it's not a very good Pittsburgh team. And like, their best win this year is USC. So, look, I know we can. All I'm saying is Notre Dame seems like they're a shoe-in for the college football playoff. And I think if you compare Vanderbilt and Notre Dame's schedule and what they've done, it's pretty close. And Notre Dame's a shoe-in and Vanderbilt's not.
No, I don't disagree at all. I mean, and that's where, like, you know, I guess technically it's at the end when sometimes you could see a reshuffle, but there's just so little that's going to happen this weekend that matters. I mean, this weekend is a great example of, my God, these conference championship games. I mean, like Alabama and Georgia. I mean, yes, obviously you want to be able to say you're SEC champion. So you're going to hear that from Kirby Smart and Kalen DeBoer this week, but they're just beating the crap out of each other before the games that matter.
Well, and by the way, real quickly on that front, like if you were a Vanderbilt fan hoping that maybe a third loss in the SEC title game would put Alabama out, I think the fact that it's Georgia makes it even less likely that's going to happen because they've already beaten Georgia on the road this year. So let's say Georgia beats them in the SEC title game. Well, Alabama's just going to turn around and say, well, great, we beat them once too. So I think the chances of Alabama being left out, even if they lose the third game in the conference championship now, are basically zero.
I agree now, but I will say, if you're looking for Hail Marys, a Georgia complete blowout of Alabama.
Yeah.
See, that's what you're rooting for if you're Vanderbilt. So that it's like, and the argument there is, and Clark Lee touched on this a little bit in his post game, and I think it's one of these things that the committee resists talking about, but of course it matters, and it is, how is a team playing right now? Because if that were to happen, you'd be looking at Bama. Boy, they were lucky to. I mean, not lucky, but I mean, they were right there. Auburn screwed that game up. How many mistakes did Auburn make?
Yeah,
in a game they could have won. They just lost at home to Oklahoma. Now they get blown out in this game. That would be the argument. Is that, look at how Vanderbilt is playing now. And it doesn't help Vanderbilt. Like, for example, Kentucky was playing really well. They blow them out. It's like, whoa. But then Kentucky goes and, face plants against Louisville, and Stoops gets fired after that awesome column by me about how he's really turned it around. So that doesn't help. But how you're playing, I mean, that I think that is, that's a hope for Vanderbilt too. Like, look how much better we got. I mean, that's a part of the Notre Dame thing, right? Is
sure.
Like, but the only problem with, and I agree, I think that Notre Dame and Vanderbilt absolutely compare closely. But see, USC is going to they're sitting there at 17. They're going to be a ranked win for Notre Dame. A big question for me is, like, or not, I don't know if they're 17. I may be off on that. But is Tennessee going to stay in the rankings?
That's a good question. I don't know,
because that's huge. That's huge too. If they conveniently fall out of the rankings, and it's just like, well, Vanderbilt has no ranked wins. Sorry.
Well,
I mean, look. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Miami is in the mix too. Like, there's just a lot that's going to have to happen for the Vanderbilt part of this. I mean, and look, I don't know, I guess, what's going to happen with Ole Miss now that Kiffin's gone. And we're going to get into the Kiffin stuff a little bit later in the show. But we've already got a couple questions about it. Like, is Ole Miss for sure going to get in at 11-1 with their coach now bolting for LSU? I think they are. But it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like.
Yes, they will. It's a fair question, but they will. And a big thing that was, what could have helped there is had the things happen to get them into the title game, and then you have the data point. That's
Right.
what I talked about last week. Florida State had multiple data points without their quarterback where it's like, oh, this team's not good anymore without Jordan Travis, and they made the right decision. Sorry for people who still think that was the wrong decision. It was the right decision. With Ole Miss, there's no data point. There's no, we watched them play without Kiffin calling plays, and boy, it's different. So yeah, they're not going to get. They're not going to, if they got left out of the playoff after what he just did to them. I mean, my goodness.
Boy.
Talk about Ole Miss as Charlie Brown lining up about to kick that ball and Lucy rips it away. Jeez.
Oh, boy.
Can I just say the idea that Vandy doesn't have any ranked wins, given that none of the teams currently are ranked right now? I do not like that narrative and how they couch that like that.
But but
I know the teams
I hear you, but like it's just it's bad luck. But like that's how bad, that's how it should. Like if again we beat the number 1 team in week 1, and then that team goes 1-11. How can you claim that as some great win, right? I mean, like South Carolina completely bottoming out sucks for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, but all of a sudden
terrible
that's like a
luck.
bad win now.
Well, yeah, but
But it's not
like,
a bad win. It's just
Right,
couched
but-
as a bad win.
Well, it's not couch is a bad win. South Carolina has proven themselves to be a bad team. Like,
Yeah, but I guess I understand, but why were they ranked where they were at the time? It's because they have a lot of good players. LSU's the same way. Let's not pretend that LSU doesn't have a lot of good players just because they're not ranked right now.
I understand, but like
Texas
when it comes
too.
down
I mean,
to
I
it,
lost to Texas, so I get that, but I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like it.
it's bad luck, but it's not like you can't do it the other way. You know what I mean? You can't do it the other way where it's like this team proved to be bad, but they were ranked high at the time, so let's count it. Like think about how problematic that would be if you did everything that way.
I mean, I get it, but Missouri was highly ranked also on that win. It's just
Well, the
it
argument
bothers
these
me a
teams
little
make
bit.
were like, well, they were ranked, and then we beat them, so that made them not ranked anymore. Like I understand a little bit from both sides, but I tend to lean more towards like I think South Carolina is a good example. A pretty good win at the time for Vanderbilt, and then you watch South Carolina the rest of the year, like, oh, they suck, which I've been trying to tell you for a couple of years. But yeah,
Right. Like, and that's again, it happens in hoops too. It's like you beat a team, now root for that team.
Right.
You're rooting for that team all year to make your win look better. And it just again, just terrible. Yeah, South Carolina, LSU, Missouri. But especially South Carolina and LSU, right? Like those games should be valuable wins right now for Vanderbilt, and they're not. And if LSU even would have won Saturday,
exactly.
That's I think Vanderbilt absolutely just switches spots with Oklahoma.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More your thoughts on Vanderbilt in the college football playoff. Plus, what now for the Tennessee Volunteers after getting thumped by Vanderbilt at home? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Mondays were made for Macero, big screens, bold flavors, and all the football action from queso to kickoffs. That's how Macero does game night. Macero Football Mondays in 12 South. Don't miss a snap. Vanderbilt takes down Tennessee. Vanderbilt picks up their first 10-win season in program history. Meanwhile, Joe, Tennessee drops to 8-4. And if you look at their schedule, they don't really have a good win on it. I mean, it's not, sometimes that's just the way the schedule falls, but they basically played 4 good teams this year, and they lost all 4 of them when you get to the end of it here. So, obviously, Joe, in the immediate aftermath of this one, the Vol fan base at large is screaming for Josh Heupel to make some staff changes, particularly to fire Tim Banks, and Adam Sparks has written a couple of things about that. Where do you look at Tennessee? Where does Josh Heupel go from here? I guess if it's not to Penn State, in the aftermath of the 8-4 season here.
Yeah. So by the way, yesterday at one point I was like, oh, wait a minute, what's happening here? Is there actually something? And it was Richard G. West with the Penn State.
Yes. Now the Richard G. West is one thing. There is some betting odd thing out there that apparently has him as a favorite to end up with the job. So we'll see.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, that is. Sometimes there's something to that. What if the topster ended up being right about Heupel? I am sitting here like wondering what Penn State's doing. Penn State,
yeah.
What do you got, man?
They fired their coach first.
Yeah, I know. You guys got a plan, or what are we doing here? Unfortunately, you missed out on Matt Rule. What a
tough one.
What a treat that would have been. Yeah. Look, it's not good for Heupel, and you're right. It's amazing when you look up and see, like, I think their best win is what? Probably at Mississippi State. Is that their best win?
Yeah. That or home against Arkansas. Yeah. One of the two.
And again, so I look at that and it's like I could see right now the committee being like, yeah, they're out of the top 25. So Vanderbilt, you have none. I still think that they were, I think they were good this year. And again, just one of those 2 games, Georgia and Oklahoma, one thing goes different probably in either of those games. And I think that Saturday is a game for a playoff spot, or at least a game for one of them to be in the mix for a playoff spot, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at the end, and again, just to get drubbed like this, and after what they did to Florida, it's interesting because I know people want to say, this I'm seeing it on the YouTube chat, which is the only chat I can get on, of course, because that's just how it goes with me these days. So sorry, text line, rip away. But people want to talk about teams quitting, and I see some of that. Oh, the Vols didn't care. I think that's total BS. The Vols wanted to shut Diego Pavia up as much as they wanted to do anything this year on Saturday. And they wanted to go end the thing at Florida, and they kicked the crap out of them. And if you want to say Florida quit, I just saw them kick the crap out of Florida State. Well, I didn't see it because it's such a bad game. No one saw it. But, it's a week after Tennessee goes down there and plays really well, dominates, ends some history. And then this happens. And look, when it comes down to it, like you said, Tim Banks, I think that's something to watch. I think staff changes in general, are I would think likely, possible. There's some soul searching they got to do, and the defensive side of the ball, it just wasn't good enough this year. Was there some bad luck in there? Absolutely. If they had their corners, what does that mean? But as we've talked about, Robby, the front 7 and just the way that we've gotten used to Tennessee playing defense, which, by the way, was also under Tim Banks, but like a lot of things really eroded this year, especially just run fits and just linebacker play. There's a lot of stuff that took a turn for the worse this year.
Yeah, it's not good. I said it last week, the difference in narrative, if you win the Vanderbilt game versus if you lose the Vanderbilt game, is pretty drastic for Josh Heupel, right? Like to me, if they win that game Saturday, Joe, we're talking about a 9-3 team that, yes, misses out on the college football playoff, but you're looking at the roster and it's like, well, they've got Staley and Matthews coming back next year, and you've got maybe Ricky Gibson back next year, and top 10 recruiting class coming in. And I think if you're a Tennessee fan, you look at it and you say, well, you lost your quarterback in April. You had your Joey Aguilar step in, do a great job. and you end up 9-3. You miss the playoff, but you're feeling good about where things are going heading into next year with the roster. And you lose. And not that the roster is that much different, right? I mean, we'll see. It's college football. They could have a bunch of people leave, I guess. They're still going to have a good roster coming back next year. But I think the difference in narrative is pretty dramatic from what it would have been had they just won the Vanderbilt game. And, it's kind of it feels like, anyway, Joe, to me, a couple days in the aftermath of this, like a crossroads moment for Josh Heupel. Like, I think it's going to be uncomfortable for him heading into next year. And if they don't make the playoff again next year, I think we're going to be having serious conversations about whether or not he keeps his job at Tennessee.
Yeah, I can't disagree. And I guess, I mentioned Totmeyer earlier. Well, you can go back to that column he wrote, and we had him on kind of like, okay, really hot seat. But that is the thing. He did point out it's like Florida and Vanderbilt, those two games. And yeah, I think even like if they lost 38-35 Saturday, people would be upset. Okay, let's not get it twisted. People would be upset. If you're a Tennessee fan and Tennessee loses to Vanderbilt, in all likelihood, you're probably not happy with your coach. That's historically, I would say, true, right? Is it different because this is the greatest Vanderbilt team of all time? Sure. Yes. But this was also a blowout. And so I'm with you. It's a tricky spot because I think that there's a lot to like about what next year's team could be. But it still comes down to you are going to have, I think, I don't think there's going to be a portal. I mean, to me, that would almost be a panic move to really go into the portal and try to pay a veteran to come in, but you're probably going to.
I would probably consider it if I were.
You would consider it, yeah. Maybe this changes the math for him on that a little bit, But he has two right now. We would assume two very talented possibilities. It's just you're talking a redshirt freshman and a true freshman.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with one of a redshirt freshman or a true freshman navigating things in what I agree with you is such a critical year with a really tough schedule? A lot of those top games are at home, but still, they've got they got the short straw next year, I'm sure, compared to a lot of teams in the SEC and what their schedules look like.
Well, and they've got at the end of last year, even though they made the college football playoff, so it's a different scenario, obviously. Tennessee fans were calling for him to fire the offensive coordinator, and he didn't do it. I'm interested to see what it looks like here. Like, I think he needs to fire Tim Banks. I'm sorry. Like, I understand that they didn't have Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson basically all year. I know Gibson played for like a half against Syracuse, but you're down your two top corners all year, so I get that. That's a problem. That defense, by the numbers, is too talented to be as bad as they were this year, and that's a problem. And I think if you're Heupel, you got to take a very serious look at that heading into next year. I mean, look, I guess there's a chance that Joey Aguilar could be back as quarterback next year. I still think that's kind of unlikely.
There's a lawsuit.
There's a lawsuit.
I don't think that's going to happen. If it did, that'd be great for them because he's not perfect, but I think his skill set worked well. And that's the thing too. Like, if you can step back as a Vols fan, go back to Nico leaving, go back to them not being able to get Luke Altmaier and several other guys that they tried to get, basically settling on Joey Aguilar.
Yeah.
And then tell you at that time they're going to go 8-4. You're like, okay. I mean, that's disappointing, but okay. But again, it's how it happens. Because the thing is, the offense was actually pretty freaking good this year, which is great. But that's another thing to remember, Robbie. I think that the Tim Banks discussion is totally fair to have. But everybody did want the OC fired last year, right? And now he's okay, So you look at the entirety of Tim Banks, their defense got better and better, and their defense basically carried them to the playoff last year, right?
Yes.
That said, I can't disagree.
It was that bad this year.
It was bad. No, it was. So I think it's a fair discussion to have. I think it's and again, sometimes it's the coordinator, sometimes there's a position coach or two who just aren't getting it done. And if you fix that, then it can be. I mean, that's the thing. These are things that Heupel knows that we don't know.
Yeah.
I do think that if he doesn't do anything, if it's just
not
like,
going to go well.
Yeah, if it's just like, nah, business as usual, here we go, then I think that he just turned the temp up a little bit, right? He just went over to the oven and put it from 350 to 425.
Let's welcome in Adam in Portland to the program on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, man, I don't want to just disagree with you, but I will say I feel like there's two ways to look at it. You said one, Joe said one. I personally, man, I'm on the side of what a season, like comparatively, like what we could have been through and what we went through are completely different things. And we lost our quarterback immediately, and they managed to still have a killer offense. Like their defense, yeah, I get it. Like maybe replace a coordinator there, but I was really proud of that UT team and the effort they put on this year. Like you look at the Titans and it's all doom and gloom. They don't have a coach. They don't have any players to give you hope. Heupel, I think, is an amazing coach. And I say that as somebody who doesn't love him as much as you do, Robby, but I do love watching him. And just to know where we were, like he took that job with so much hate at Tennessee and so little success, and has turned it into what it is. So I'm on the side of just being proud of him, and I don't see any way he's on the hot seat next year. So that's just me, man.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Adam. We will respond to that coming up next. A lot of thoughts to get to on the Tennessee front. We will do that. We will get into the Titans and their loss to Jacksonville coming up as well. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on some college football. Vanderbilt gets their first 10-win season in program history. Clark Lee with a contract extension. And where do we go from here on the Tennessee front? 8-4. If you look at their schedule, not really a great win on the schedule for Tennessee this year. Taking your thoughts on all that. 615-737-1025. Now, Joe, I largely think Josh Heupel has done a really good job. I think the Tennessee fans that want him fired like right now are crazy. I think he's by far done more than enough to warrant, getting a chance to turn this around and fix it heading into next year. But I do recognize that if he doesn't, then I think you have to see that would be year 6 at that point. Then I think you have to start to have real conversations of, all right, well, where's this all going here? Because like you said, I mean, frankly, from a scheduling standpoint this year, it worked out pretty well for Tennessee. You had Georgia at home. You let that game get away from you. You had Oklahoma at home. You had Vanderbilt at home. 3 of the 4 losses we're talking about came at home at Neyland Stadium, where they've been borderline invincible except for Georgia over the years, and they just weren't this year. So where is this all heading into next year? Like, if they're not, I guess I won't say outright in the playoff, even though I think a lot of Tennessee fans will feel that way. But if they're not at least heavily in the playoff discussion by the time Selection Sunday comes around next year, Joe, then I think that's going to be a big problem for Josh Heupel.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, they've pushed the the deadline back on. We were supposed to know by now if it's going to be 12 or expanded next year. They pushed the deadline back, so it's still possible. It's a bigger field. I hope it's 12 again. I mean, look, I'd take 10 years of 12 and let's try that, but so if it's a little bit bigger field, that makes it even, less and less acceptable for Tennessee and other programs that don't get into the field. He's got to be right there for sure. And again, it's how does it look, right? Like we can talk about records and all that stuff, but like, how does it look? And a question you ask yourself if you're Tennessee, so what's more marketable right now? I think not just Tennessee, any job where you're not sure about your coach, or maybe you wonder if maybe you've hit your ceiling with your coach. How marketable is your job to other coaches, and how marketable is your coach to other jobs?
Right.
And I would argue right now that Tennessee would be a very coveted job for prominent coaching candidates right now if it were to open. And we're talking about Heupel to Penn State. I have no idea if there's been any inkling of actual interest there, but I don't think Heupel. I think Heupel would draw interest too, but seasons like this maybe tilt the scales a little bit more toward your job being more marketable. And look, it is possible. We've talked for years. Is Heupel going to end up being a quote unquote bridge coach who stabilizes things in a place that badly needed it? Deserves so much credit, big picture, for what he's done to bring Tennessee back into relevance and into consistent success and stability. And again, they just made the playoff last year too, by the way. And in 2022, they were on their way to the 4-team playoff. I mean, overall, he's done very well. But is it times after next year, if it doesn't go well, to say, okay, who's the coach who can win a national championship at Tennessee? Because we do have Ole Miss in this playoff, but we are still waiting for a team that runs like that offense to win a national championship.
Who would you rather have as your coach, Heupel or Clark Lee?
I mean, it's hard to argue against Clark Lee based on what we just saw, right? I mean,
so if you're Tennessee, do you feel like you need to make a move if Vandy maybe has the one up on you on coach?
Well, I don't know. I mean, next year, that's the thing. Joe mentioned the schedule. You got Alabama at home, LSU at home, Texas at home. You're on the road at A&M. By the way, you're non-conference. You got a road game at Georgia Tech, which is not going to be a cakewalk either. I mean, you got a tough schedule next year if you're Tennessee. That's not even mentioning Auburn, who just hired Alex Golesh. I mean, you got to go on and play Beamer on the road, assuming he still has his job there. at that point. I mean, Vanderbilt on the road, like they got a tough schedule next year. So if they make the playoff next year, Joe, they will have earned it with the schedule that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, and that's an interesting question about Lee and Heupel. I mean, look, I obviously if you're answering that question 2 days after what Clark Lee did, he just authored the greatest season of Vanderbilt history. So it's easy to say Lee right now. I mean, but it's also like Heupel has had a longer run, right, of success with ups. I mean, like with Clark Lee, and we don't need to get into this right now, but there is definitely going to be like, okay, post Diego Pavia now, what are you doing?
Right.
Which is a fair thing to have. Also, great for Vanderbilt to get him locked up because he's a damn good coach, and great for him. But that is an interesting way to frame it, Ian. If you want to just compare those two, when it comes down to it, yeah. Look, Heupel has got to fix some things that were broken this year. I think he does have to do. He's got to do some things, I think, with his staff. And it's not like you do it just to placate the fans. Like you do it because you're doing it to make yourself better. But there are coaches who struggle with that, right? There are coaches where sometimes I think loyalty, while it's admirable, and it's like the opposite of, say, Lane Kiffin, it's also sometimes you have to be a little bit cutthroat and just be like, you know what, I can upgrade here, and I'm sorry. I mean, look, it happened to Heupel at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Right now, that may be a reason he is deterred from doing stuff like that because of how he got scapegoated at Oklahoma. But sometimes in this business, you have to do stuff like that.
Well, and last thing I'll say on the Heupel front, and we'll get into the Titans coming up next. Tennessee has not been overly aggressive in the transfer portal. They have made some very impactful ads in the transfer portal, right? But it's not like they've gone out there and in huge numbers just brought in all these dudes from the portal. I might take a look at that this offseason if you're Heupel. With the roster that you've got coming back, you got the Adidas deal coming down the pike. There's a lot of money that you've got, and like we just talked about it. It's a really, really critical year for you next year. I'm interested to see what his approach is going to be on that.
Yeah, real fast on that. I agree. I think you need to get in on some big targets, but also like as well as their high school recruiting has gone, I still think the best programs are still the lifeblood is that, and you want to be that. You want to have stability and carryover and not be huge numbers in and out, but they definitely need to go in and get into some bidding wars with some of the top targets and win some of those battles.
As bad as the Titans have looked over the past few years, they somehow looked worse yesterday. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. It is a Monday after a Titans game. We hadn't talked about them yet, an hour into the show. I guess
There's a record
now. Boy, was that something yesterday. Look, it's been, as we know, Joe, brutal around here now for 3 consecutive years. Particularly the last 2 have just been an absolute slog. Yesterday, I'm not willing to call it rock bottom, but it was up there. Like, it was up there in terms of the worst performances that they've had. I mean, number one, it's 25-3, the final score. You can't win a home game to save your life. It's been over a calendar year since you've won a game at home. The stadium looked legitimately half empty yesterday. You know, people say that a lot. Legitimately, there may have been, I don't know, 35,000 people in the stadium yesterday. They did get a nice shot on the television broadcast of Amy Adams Strunk under the blanket with the window open in the box, though. So she looked cozy. Looked like she's about to take a nap watching the Titans play, so that was good to see. You had Cam Ward, 24 of 38 for 141 yards. Got sacked 3 times. Joe, I'm sure that I've seen this. I just don't really remember a number this low. 3.7 yards per completion. 3.7 for
per attempt or completion?
Completion. It's 3.7 yards. 24 for 38, 141 yards, according to ESPN. Maybe their stats are wrong.
God, you're right. It is. That's crazy. No, that's a good. I'd love to have that contextualized, because there can't be many 24 completion games with 141 passing yards.
It's hard to do. So you got 141 yards for Cam Ward. You have 67 yards on the ground for the Titans. I mean, Tony Pollard actually looked kind of good yesterday. Only had 10 carries, but he had 60 yards in the game. You know, defensively, you gave up 25 to Jacksonville, and frankly, it felt like if Jacksonville wanted to keep scoring in the second half, that they could have. They didn't. They end up winning the game 25-3. And Joe, I mean, it was a game where basically, you know, right at the beginning of the second quarter, you knew that it was over yesterday. Just a brutal showing, particularly offensively, for the Tennessee Titans yesterday.
Yeah, it was really bad. Really bad. And Jacksonville's good, but it's just disappointing to have a little bit of life and a little bit of excitement coming off a pretty good performance against a really good team, and in particular, a pretty good performance for your quarterback and offense, and then to put that on the field. And just on the Ward, beyond the awfulness overall of the performance, and boy, Mike McCoy, man, that guy, I tell you what, what a legendary interim coaching tenure this is.
You know, if it was 4th and 2, they'd have gone for it, Joe. 4th and 3, can't do it.
Yeah. But Ward,
that's where we draw the line.
Yeah, great stuff. But Ward yesterday, you know, there were protection issues at times, as there always are, but there were. I think Ward, to me, looked yesterday like he just really he was seeing ghosts. Like I don't know that I've seen, and maybe it's just because Hines Allen, he knows the matchup's bad, but there were actually times where Mandor and Latham were fine. Protection was fine, and he's kind of in the pocket, crouching down, you know, expecting it to collapse on him instead of standing in and making a throw. I thought that happened a few times yesterday, and I don't think we've seen a ton of that this year from him. So, you know, that's one of those things, certainly, when a quarterback gets sacked as much as he does, that's something you worry about, right? You worry about, I think seeing ghosts is a good way to put it. Marcus Mariota absolutely, to me, did that way more later in his tenure with the Titans than he did early. And he had serious injuries and all that stuff that I think led to that. But that's one thing that struck me yesterday is I thought Cam Ward didn't trust protection that at times actually was holding up. And then, just again, some of these throws, missing some throws, but also just some really strange footwork and not planning and throwing where he's releasing the ball and then it comes out errantly.
By the way, it turns out ESPN stats wrong here, so let me correct that. It is 5.9 yards per attempt for Cam Ward. I don't know where they get the 3.7 yard from, but whatever.
Well, that was just in the game. 3.7 this game, yards per attempt, I think.
No, I'm saying in this game they're wrong on this. I just did the math. Yeah.
The stats on the app say the same thing on the Game Center.
I don't know what ESPN's doing on there.
Okay, wait, are we talking attempt or completion again?
It says completion, but I think they just got it wrong on here.
Yeah, the app says yards per attempt,
Okay.
3.7.
Well, there you go.
Maybe
that's what it is.
Yeah,
3.7 per attempt, 5.9 per completion.
There we go.
It is per attempt. Let me tell you,
I was told there'd be
3.7
no
per
math.
attempt. Let me tell you though, 3.7 per attempt. Also very, very bad. Like very bad.
Yeah. Well, look, I thought, we talked last week in the aftermath of the Seattle game about Ward taking a step and how good he looked in that game. And again, I didn't want to overblow it in that game, but I thought it was clearly his best game. He's bad in this one. And it wasn't just him. Like, they couldn't get open to save their life in this game, and their receiving core is awful, and I think we all understand that. But Cam Ward, from a decision-making standpoint, like you said, Joe, he's kind of hopping around in the pocket. There are a couple plays where it's like, dude, you have to get rid of the football, where he's just hanging on and hanging on and hanging on. It was discouraging on the Cam Ward front yesterday, and you could sense some frustration from him after the game. Here's what Cam Ward had to say about the progress that the Titans offense has made this year.
How frustrating, Cam, I guess, as a team, you guys have maybe made some strides in recent weeks, been competitive today, but it seemed like a step back. How come you think it was?
I'm big on results, so win-loss is the only thing I care about. Strides, we haven't made any strides. We've got the same outcome for the last couple of weeks, so it's more about just winning a football game now, no matter how it gets done, whether one side of the ball is playing good and the other side isn't, or special teams wins the game for us, but it comes down to just winning games.
So that was Cam Ward after the game yesterday.
Good luck with that.
We haven't made any. There are no strides that have been made here.
Yeah, frustration, no doubt. And by the way, yeah, Vingan. Oh, he's texting. So Vingan gave me this stat. Bo Nix. So Cam Ward yesterday, 24 completions, 141 yards. Bo Nix's debut, he had 26 completions for 138 yards. So we have found instantly one that's even lower than Cam Ward. But you're not going to see a lot of those in the NFL at all. And the frustration is there. And I tell you, I'm really intrigued, Robby, by some of the frustration. Like, did you see what Arden Key said after the game and Jeff Simmons? And I'm like
Simmons is at a loss for words, pretty much. He just kept saying, I don't know. I don't know. He just didn't want to throw the offense under the bus so hard. He was trying.
Well, that's maybe you're right. Maybe it's just the offense. But I also, and Easton Freeze wrote about this at A to Z Sports, it also almost felt like there was some just complaining about the coaching between those two. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to – it was certainly cryptic. But
well, Cam Ward, I mean, just
people
about
are mad.
said it, right? Cam Ward just about said it. And when it comes to like the aggressiveness, right? Like the going for it. And he was like, what do we have to lose? Like, he's like, I talk about it all the time. Like, what do we have to lose at 1-10, now 1-11? Why are we not being more aggressive on fourth down? Like, look, Brian Callahan was what he was. I almost feel like watching Mike McCoy out. I owe a little bit of an apology to Brian Callahan out there. It's like, good God, man, what are we doing? Like, I've never seen an interim head coach who has absolutely nothing to lose and is supposed to come in and kind of loosen things up a little bit and be a little bit more free flowing. I'm not saying you got to be reckless, but just they'd be better off with Amy Strunk out there coaching right now. It's awful.
Hey, there's a thought there. You got yourself a thought.
4th and 17. Let her rip, Cam.
Yeah, it's on the broadcast at one point they brought up, it was like, that's one thing Mike McCoy said. Things have changed a lot. All these people are going for it on fourth down since he was last head coach. Like, yeah, have you not been around football here lately? I mean, It's like, gosh, people aren't running the option anymore. It's really weird.
I tried to
Yes.
install the wishbone the other day. It didn't work.
Oh my goodness. It's yeah. So 5 more games of this. How about that, everybody? 5 more games, 5 more preparation weeks and game plans and
Browns week this week,
games.
baby.
Yeah, that'll be good.
That should be a fun
I'm
one.
sure Myles Garrett won't set a single game sack record in this one. That'll be good.
Oh my goodness. And it's whatever, but like if Shedeur Sanders, outplays Cam Ward and beats Cam Ward, you just add that to the mix. It includes Traylon Burks having a big game.
I was about to say, I
last
can
night,
tell
by
you,
the
you
way.
just go ahead and write it down. It's going to happen. Shedeur is going to outplay him because Cam Ward is going to be running from Myles Garrett the whole game. And apparently now Traylon Burks is good. I mean, the catch he made last night was the best catch I've seen since Odell Beckham in the league, and it came from Marcus freaking Mariota. I mean, what a year for Titans fans.
It's truly incredible. It really is. Like, it just get out of here and everything will be fine for you.
Titans lose 25-3 to Jacksonville. We'll take your thoughts on Cam Ward's performance and just a brutal loss to Duval yesterday. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Rexrode and I doing a program while having a YouTube chat argument at the same time. Multitasking.
Don't start with me.
That's what we do. Rexrode, big fan of Tulane Green Wave. Wants to see him in the playoff this year.
Yeah, I think that there
They
should
lost
be a
by
group
22
of 5
to
spot.
UTSA and 35 to Ole Miss, but let's watch them in the playoff.
Okay, well, let's take the NCAA tournament. We'll just get rid of all those auto
because
bids.
college football and college basketball are the same thing. Those are good.
No, but it's a 12-team playoff. You can have one spot to give opportunity to more than just the Power 4 conferences. You should. You're compelled to do it
I look
because
forward to Oregon's bye that they're going to get in the playoff coming up.
great. Well, let's just go NFL light then. I mean, you're the one who complains about
They
NFL
are
light.
NFL
Let's just go. Okay, let's go all the way. That's fine.
They have access to get in. It's a 12-team playoff. They were never going to get in with the 4. I think we all know that. They shouldn't. There's no reason for us to watch Tulane play football this year.
Yeah, you go to 12 or you go higher, you have a group of 5 spot. It's done, and it won't change, and it shouldn't change.
Okay. Well, when Oregon wins by 45 in the playoff game, I don't want to hear a word from you or anybody else about
That's fine. Well, that's fine. And then when Texas Tech beats Virginia by 45, it'll be the same crap. I mean, that's going to happen too. They're a Power 4 team.
We'll have this discussion at a later time. Now we have to talk about the local professional football team. By the way, I got some tickets to give away. Belmont taking on Richmond at the Curb Event Center this Wednesday. Tip-off at 6:30. Caller number 3 will win a pair of tickets to see Belmont take on Richmond coming up this Wednesday at 6:30. 615-737-1025. Joe, I will say on the Cam Ward front, I mean, yesterday's offensive performance in general, among the worst I can remember for the Titans. Like, it never felt like they were going to threaten at all. I looked at the wide receivers yesterday. They targeted Gunnar Helm 7 times. He had the highest success rate when it just came to like catching the ball. He averaged 3.8 yards per catch. Chig was their leading receiver with 29 yards yesterday. You had Restrepo get hurt at the end of the game on the one catch that he made. It looked bad. He got carted off the field. Apparently nothing's broken there, so that's good. We'll see what happens on that front and what that looks like for him. But, I mean, looking down the field, and they were talking about this on the broadcast yesterday too on CBS, I don't know if the Titans got open yesterday. Like, it was a combination. It was a couple of things being true, which I know sometimes we struggle with here. The receivers were awful. They couldn't get open. Offense couldn't get anything going. And I thought Cam Ward, in addition to that, Joe, with some of the decisions that he made, just took a big step back from what he looked like a week ago. And that's to me the most discouraging thing is we know how bad they are as a football team. But it did feel like Ward made some real progress last week against Seattle. And now it kind of feels like he just took a big step back against Jacksonville.
Yeah, and it's and as we've always talked about, there are going to be ups and downs. It's not just going to be he got a little bit better last week, and now a little bit better this week, and now a little bit better next week. There's going to be ups and downs, but it's disappointing because I think it's been a couple weeks of kind of getting better. And again, I think that was arguably his best game against Seattle, and then this was, I think, one of his worst. So I do think some of it. I'm not trying to make an excuse for him. But I just, based on how he was navigating that pocket, I think he just expected that, like, Josh Hines Allen was going to sack him about 6 times yesterday, which, by the way, here comes Myles Garrett, as you said.
Oh,
so,
I mean, wasn't Walker out for them too yesterday? Their defensive lineman?
Yeah.
Trayvon. So it's like, okay, their best D lineman's out. Should help you a little bit. And Armstead was out.
Yeah, I mean, and again, they got pressure, but there was some of that pressure, like, it was fast. The man door swung open sometimes, but there were some pockets that he should have been able to stand in, and he was surprised it was still holding together.
Yeah.
So then it's like, that's one of those things where it happened yesterday. You don't want that at the end of this year for us to be talking about, okay, how close are they to 70 sacks, and has this now affected him in terms of how he stands in? Because I think one thing he's done most of this year been pretty strong, being able to stand in and make throws. And obviously some of his best plays are when he breaks the pocket and things like that. But I thought even yesterday, one of the things he did well against Seattle, he had a sense for when to run, and he broke off some really important plays. And then he again, I think yesterday his instincts were bad on that front.
Grant from Nashville asking, is there an argument to be made that this Titans team is the worst team in NFL history? Joe, you sat through the 0-17 Lions. It actually was 0-16. But how does this compare? Look, man, I'm not going to outright say that this is like among the worst teams in NFL history because I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. I will say, though, they're probably going to end up 1-16. That's the reality here. I mean, maybe they beat Cleveland or the Saints maybe.
Yeah, New
we'll
Orleans.
See. But they're probably going to end up 1-16. And the one win they got was almost like a divine miracle from God. Like that when you go back and watch that game, like they very, very well should be an 0-17 football team. They're that bad.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't know where to put them, but I think it's hard to make that case if you won a game, right? Like that discussion has to be among the winless teams. So I would not say, I don't even remember. I think it was like Orlovsky and some other people quarterbacking the Lions in 08 and they drafted Matt Stafford. I don't think this team is worse than the 2008 Detroit Lions. Just because like at least there's a talent who has a chance to be like an established starter in this league at quarterback. And again, all due respect to Dan Orlovsky, I like him on ESPN. He thinks the end zone is 20 yards deep. I mean, it was that bad. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to beat that crew.
It's in the conversation, though. It's bad.
Whoa. Yeah, I mean, this is a very bad team. I think you could say, and you probably could before, but I think you could say that, like, you compare this to the terrible team of 10 and 11 years ago. This is definitely worse, right? That team at least had a few talented players on both sides of the ball. This one is it's light, man.
Well, again, like the few games that team won, like they actually went out there and won it. Like, I've said it, Ken Whisenhunt, genius in week 1. It just kind of fell apart.
That's right.
After that, I mean, the one game the Titans won this year, I mean, go back and look at it. When we know it, it's the set of circumstances to win that game. Just unbelievable. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, it really is. It took a lot. Took some great plays, by the way, by Cam Ward, things like that. He made some throws, but to even have the opportunity, again, one of the touchdowns was a pick he threw. It turned into a touchdown for you. So
the other one was the touchdown that didn't happen was a running back dropping the football.
Yeah. Oh man. They really could be chasing history.
I thought after last week, Joe, I was like, they played pretty well against Seattle. Ward took a step. I mean, heck, I picked them to win against the Jags. I think it was more due to my hatred for Jacksonville and the GM coach duo that they've got now. But, I've watched a little bit of the Saints. They're not very good, so I'm not going to say the Titans can't win that game. The Browns aren't very good, but the Browns have a defense that it's hard to imagine the Titans scoring a single touchdown on. That Browns defense coming up this weekend. I know the Saints are bad, and who knows, maybe at the end of the year, they're taking on teams that have no interest in playing their starters because they're worried about the playoffs. I have no idea. But
that would be Jacksonville the last week.
Yeah, I'm putting it on record now. They're going 1-16. Sorry.
I think you're probably going to look pretty smart.
That Saints battle could be just a glory.
It could be.
I mean, it could be just absolutely terrible because the Saints are not good.
No, they're bad
on offense, and they've been rolling with Tyler Shuck, and they can't put up any points either.
Not that I want to sit here and be like, oh yeah, the Browns will beat them. I mean, the Browns are really bad, but yeah, they have the best defensive player in the league. That probably will be enough. And I think Shedeur, by the way, looks okay.
Looks all right. Yeah. 615-737-1025, our phone number. What a dramatic weekend on the Lane Kiffin front. We will get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
You know, there was something in me. This was really hard. My heart was here, but I just, I talked to some mentors, Coach Carroll, Coach Saban, and especially when Coach Carroll said, man, your dad would tell you to go, man, take the shot. Take the shot. You've accomplished a lot here. I always hated how we only gave 1 year to Tennessee and left. I really hated that feeling of that, even though it was an exciting year. But, I think that we gave a lot to this program and to the city, and, some of the most historic wins in this stadium we've ever had, and best regular season in the history of the school. So I feel proud of that part, but it just became time, I talked to God and he told me it's time to take a new step. It's a new chapter.
That's Lane Kiffin yesterday after Marty Smith hopped the fence and interviewed him at the airport down there in Oxford. What a weekend on the Lane Kiffin front. By the way, I guess Tennessee fans saw that yesterday. It's like, look, Lane has some regret on the 1 year at Tennessee. How about that?
Isn't that nice?
That's real nice. I'm also loving that clip, Joe, and I know you're going to get to this here in a few minutes on the Lane Kiffin front. I do love how he just absolutely threw Pete Carroll on the bus there, too. He's like, hey, Ole Miss fans, if you're mad, I was really on the fence. Then Pete Carroll told me my dad would tell me to go, so that's what it took. Like, Pete Carroll was apparently the one that just pushed him over the edge there.
Yeah, Pete Carroll and God. Blame them.
It's
not me. Yeah, and Saban. It's not my fault.
So we'll get into that here in just a few minutes. But it is official, and Lane Kiffin is now the next head coach of the LSU Tigers. We were in wait-and-see mode all weekend, Joe, but I think we knew the whole time that LSU was going to be where he ended up. It was what exactly is going to happen on the playoff front. There was the meeting with Keith Carter, again, not the Titans' former offensive line coach, but the athletic director at Ole Miss about was he going to continue to coach after the Egg Bowl. They did win the Egg Bowl and dominate that, by the way, so there is that. But now Kiffin is out. Pete Golding has been named the head coach there at Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin is out the door, will not be coaching in the college football playoff, and has accepted the job at LSU. So, Joe, it was a pretty wild weekend on the Lane Kiffin front. By the way, there was like a borderline brawl on the field at the Egg Bowl, too, so there's also that. And Lane Kiffin went after a reporter. A lot of stuff going on the Lane Kiffin front this weekend. So, Joe, I'll let you take that wherever you want to take it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I put this as a rant, so it's like I don't. As soon as I start talking about Lane Kiffin, like, again, it's not personal. I just like all of this stuff that's happened. Like, we've enjoyed Lane Kiffin. He's a hell of a troll. It's funny. He's already trolling now. He goes to LSU and immediately, tweets out that picture of him and like the number 2 recruit in the country, and he's tweeting out Tigers and all this stuff.
Well, he tweeted out his book this morning, and a part of he tweets out every day this passages from these books that he's reading, and today, as a part of the emoji, he's got the flag of Trinidad and Tobago on there as a part of his emoji, which everybody's looking at and be like, oh, so you're trying to get Trinidad Chambliss to come down there with you to LSU.
Yeah. Which I'm sure he'll be there next year with him. It's just pathetic. He's pathetic. He is. I wish him absolute failure in life. And yeah, like I'm not quite as angry as like the Ole Miss fans who were gathered at the airport and flipping him off and screaming at him yesterday, but it's just a lot of this is it really bothers. We'll get into like the conversation on ESPN this weekend. I actually thought I was like on glue or something. Like, am I hallucinating that I'm hearing this stupidity? But yesterday, Robby, the SEC got 5 new coaches.
Yeah.
In one day. In one day, the SEC got 5 new coaches and fired another one, Mark Stoops. So real quick to review. Lane Kiffin up to LSU. Pete Golding gets the full-time replacement job instantly from Ole Miss, which is interesting. I'm interested to see how LSU or Ole Miss fans think about that. Everybody knew he would be the interim coach, but to give him the full thing, that's interesting. Then you have Alex Golesh, former Tennessee OC, South Florida. He goes to Auburn. It's a pretty sweet gig for him. There was a lot of talk about Arkansas. Arkansas, it seems, didn't get him, so they went and they got Ryan Silverfield from Memphis, also a good coach. A guy who, by the way, went 3-0 against Golesh the last 3 years. And then John Summerall goes to Florida. And Summerall, I think for Florida fans, obviously they wanted Kiffin, so that's probably just an automatic disappointment. But just a crazy day. But Lane Kiffin and this whole saga, there's just nothing to compare to this. Is this a problem for the sport? Hell yes, it is. This is coaches. They wanted the counter. And look, I'll raise my hand. I didn't think about this as problematic as it obviously is at the time, but they changed all the calendar. They changed the portal time, all that stuff. But we're in this situation. I mean, this is what a joke college football can be. Like in the end, think about it, any pro sports league or whatever, like there's rules against this, right? I mean, like you just can't tamper. You can't do these things. You can't go over. I mean, he's just totally negotiating with two schools, sending his family down on visits while he's coaching a team that has a chance to win a national championship. It's just amazing. So the sport gets a ton of blame, but also the way he handled this is just so ridiculous. And I think back on E60 special Lane, the changed man, and all that. It's just a whole load of horse bleep, man. It's just and no one will ever buy it again. And he probably will embrace the villain role. But I'm just telling you right now, I guess there's supposed to be objectivity to some extent. Like I feel like other than LSU fans, this country is rooting so hard against LSU to ever do anything under Lane Kiffin. And I got to think that Ole Miss has become the darling of the nation in this tournament, right?
Yeah. It's going to be – I'm really interested to see how they respond to this and what that looks like. By the way, LSU next season on the road at Ole Miss, on the road at Tennessee.
Woo, baby.
That'll be interesting. See how that goes for Lane Kiffin.
Get your golf balls ready.
So Kiffin denied this in his interview with Marty Smith, but we did have Brett McMurphy, among others, put it out there yesterday that while he was meeting with Ole Miss, this is how McMurphy put it, quote, Lane Kiffin is essentially demanding to finish the season with Ole Miss while simultaneously threatening to poach the Ole Miss roster and staff if he can't. And obviously he talked about that with Marty Smith yesterday and said that was not true. But, I mean, I think we know Lane Kiffin. There probably was some of that, and it looks like the offensive coordinator is going down there with him as well. So we'll see what that all looks like. But what do you make of not only the decision to go to LSU, but trying at the same time, clearly, to finish coaching at Ole Miss while he's the head coach at a rival school and reportedly putting some ultimatums in there as well?
It's disgusting. This guy is going to claim to give a crap about any of these people. Look, man, again, you can't blame him for the calendar. Like, this is what it is.
Yeah. I
can't blame a guy at Ole Miss if Florida and LSU were courting. I can't blame you for looking at those jobs. I can't even blame you for taking the job. But I can, to me, I wanted to see him stay and be a coach who gets a statue at Ole Miss and do things there, because again, we're seeing this around college football, right? Kurt Signetti, Penn State would like you. Nah, I'm staying in Indiana. I'm good. You think Clark Lee couldn't have gotten a better job this offseason? He could have. Well, guess what? And I know he interviewed at Florida. Guess what? He's staying at Vanderbilt. So, first of all, there's more opportunity, I think, for different programs to do it. Still, I can't blame him for ultimately choosing that job and all that stuff. The calendar is not his fault. But you're going to try to claim to anyone for the rest of your life that you give a crap about anyone but yourself? If you have the instinct to do one thing to hurt this team that worked so hard to get to this point, to do one thing to hurt this team on its way to trying to win a national championship, you're leaving. Okay. You're going to try to hold people hostage and hurt that team so that they can't. All those players who worked their ass off for you, blasted their heads open for you on the field. You're gonna because you're a little whiny, petulant child, you're gonna make it all about yourself. What a narcissistic clown. See, it's not the rant yet, Robby. I was worried about this. He is a clown. He is absolute clown, and it's disgusting.
We will continue this conversation coming up next. We got a pre-rant to the rant there, which I love. when Rexrode does that. More coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Well, first, I just watched you do something unbelievable and go off-road around the fire trucks to get here. So amazing job by you.
I wish him absolute failure in life.
For a whole sideline to try to fight and leave
their whole sideline, including their athletic director. I've never seen like it. So I'm just reminding them, like, we're trying to play football here.
And I actually thought I was like on glue or something.
I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Thank you so much for your time.
Quit being a loser.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play.
It is time for the Rex Rant, brought to you by Functional Medicine of Tennessee. Rise up to better health. Check them out at functionalmedicineoftennessee.net. I think we're kind of catching Rexrode like mid-rant here. So, Joe, go ahead.
Well, the one part of this whole thing that we haven't talked about yet is the ESPN hand in this has been truly astounding. Let me just say, though, because you say ESPN and you broad brush everybody. Let me just say, shout out to Scott Van Pelt, who has been like, you got Booger McFarland, Kirk Herbstreit, Nick Saban, all these people who are caping for Kiffin to keep coaching this team, which is some of the dumbest crap I've ever heard, truly. And Scott Van Pelt is out there like, what are you talking about? So it's not all of ESPN. I love this. Van Pelt made the analogy of Kiffin trying to coach his team. He's like, yeah, I made the decision to leave my wife for a woman she despises. She's been very loyal. I was hoping to keep living in our house through Christmas, but they've decided that I need to move on. I mean, seriously, it's so dumb. Kirk Herbstreit, and I have a ton of respect for Herbstreit. I think he's the best announcer out there. I probably agree with him like 97, 98% of the time. He actually sat there with a camera on him, knowing that people are listening to him, and talked about how Ole Miss AD Keith Carter, quote, needs to set his emotions aside, end quote, and let Kiffin coach this team. So basically framing it like, well, you got to let Kiffin coach the team, and this AD's just angry at him. If Keith Carter let Lane Kiffin coach this team, he'd be the biggest idiot in college football. You know how stupid that would be? Yeah, Lane, I know that you now work for a rival we hate, and in the next few weeks, you're going to spend many hours of every day recruiting players against us and also trying to figure out who from this building you're going to take with you down there. Yeah. But sure, keep coaching the team. Like, Kirk Herbstreit can't possibly be serious. He can't truly have believed what he was saying. And then Booger McFarland and Nick say all these people, and then there's people, there's this whole Jimmy Sexton. A lot of these people are represented by him at CAA, so it's like this. I mean, I'm hesitant to believe that it's a conspiracy that Herbstreit isn't speaking on his own there, but it is crazy. It's crazy to think you would give a second of consideration to that moronic idea. Like, no one would do that. And yet we had to hear all weekend people trying to make the case for it. I cannot possibly understand how that happened. So that aspect of it has made it even worse, right? I mean, good for Marty Smith for being held hostage in the building there, but even some of their interactions too, I was like, oh my God, just the eye roll factor is just so intense. It's Lane Kiffin.
Coach and asked him if he was going to wrap it up today or not.
I mean, Kiffin, this is one thing Kiffin does. And it's funny because Feinbaum told me this story about when he called him Miley Cyrus back in the day, right? When he was at LSU. And Feinbaum said, everybody on that ESPN game day, they wouldn't talk to him the rest of the day because they all love Kiffin. Kiffin he's very accessible. One of the greatest press conferences I've ever been a part of was him for Alabama before the playoff when Saban finally he couldn't stop his assistants from talking. And he's taking shots at Saban. It was amazing. People in media love him, so he has all these allies. But at some point, you got to step back and do your job and call balls and strikes. And I mean, it's just embarrassing. And it's going to be interesting to see what goes on from here with some of that discussion. If anybody bitches about Ole Miss not letting him coach, I seriously might actually have an aneurysm.
I will say I'm a little disappointed in Ole Miss fans. I didn't see any burning mattresses, and I've been through this thing before with Kiffin, and I saw burning mattresses and just a lot heavier of a of a public response. And that was even, I guess it wasn't pre-social media. I mean, there's Facebook and MySpace.
MySpace.
But, Ole Miss, I expected a little bit more from their fans in the aftermath of all this.
Well, to be fair, the Kiffin thing was so late at night. There were probably a lot of the Vols fans were drunk by then. You know what I'm saying? So maybe just the time of day had something to do with it.
Wow, there's a mattress on fire out there. How about that?
I mean, also it's like, the students are probably gone, right? Thanksgiving week. I don't know. I'm trying to make excuses for them. I thought it was a pretty good showing of middle fingers at the airport.
How did Marty Smith get around all those folks and none of the other people did? That's what I'd love to know.
That's a good question. I don't know. That guy is he's amazing how he can slink in and out of things.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. I think the way that he's handled all of this has been very poor. On the surface of it, I've said this the whole time. Like, I don't blame him for taking the LSU job. I would take the LSU job if I were Lane Kiffin. I know it's a different time in college sports, but LSU job to me is pretty darn good job. So it doesn't surprise me that he took it. It's not his fault that the calendar forces this to be where it is. And frankly, hopefully some common sense as they're continuing to lack that in the world of college football right now. Hopefully we can at least get the coaching calendar part of this figured out where we don't have teams all the time that are trying to coach in playoff games or their coach is taking another job elsewhere. Like, it's just so stupid that we've allowed that to get to this point. But there's no doubt, like, some of the things that Kiffin has said and the way that he's handled this, like, if you thought that he just turned over some new leaf at Ole Miss and he's some new guy, I think we're kind of seeing that he's the same as he's always been. Right or wrong?
We haven't even gotten into the kid from, I think it's On 3 or maybe it's 24/7. I don't know, but he makes the podcast comment. You can't turn a hoe into a housewife, and so Lane, confronts him while surrounded by state troopers. And all of that stuff was just embarrassing. And then this, this other reporter in the press conference is kind of like making the case to Lane for like and at the end Lane's like, I didn't even know your name. Yeah. It's very much a true colors thing here with Lane Kiffin. And, I'm interested to hear from Greg Sankey on this. I mean, I've heard from Greg Sankey about 10 million times about, the calendar and players and free agency and guardrails and all these things. How is this not as damaging as anything else? You, in your own league, you have a coach coaching a national championship contender who is negotiating with multiple other teams in your league and creating a scene like this. This doesn't bother you? I mean, I know you want guardrails on the players. What about does this not bother you? This is fine. I mean, let's hear from Greg Sankey. Let's hear some Greg Sankey leadership here.
Corey Curtis from News 2 coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on Vanderbilt's win against Tennessee, his thoughts on an absolute debacle from the Tennessee Titans yesterday, all that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Monday morning at 8 o'clock, which means it is time for our friend Corey Curtis from News 2 to join the program on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Corey Curtis brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. Corey, happy Monday to you. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend.
It was a delight. Yesterday was truly something I won't forget. It was amazing.
Yeah, I said it earlier. If you're watching the Titans over the last 3 years, it's been a lot of bad football. You've had a lot of games to choose from. Yesterday was up there in terms of the worst. It was 25-3 score. They got nothing done offensively. Like half the stadium was empty at the game yesterday against Jacksonville.
Yep.
I guess the most disappointing part, Corey, beyond the loss, which we've come to expect at this point, Cam Ward, I felt like took a pretty good step against Seattle, and then I felt like it all came crashing back yesterday.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're excited about, if you're thinking like the big positive last week was how well Cam Ward played, then the big negative this week has to be how poorly he played. Because I mean, shoot, look at the Minnesota Vikings, right? How good were they last year with Sam Darnold?
Pretty darn good.
How much and how trashy are they this year without him? With J.J. McCarthy and who played yesterday? Max Brosmer.
Yeah, Bosmer.
Yeah, I mean it was special what they did, and it just goes to show you how important that position is. You can have the same roster, but you change out that one spot, or that one spot doesn't play well, and everything can come to a crashing halt. And I'm not saying the rest of them played well by any means, but he had a bad day. And the first drive was pretty good, but it became pretty clear pretty quickly that he wasn't the same guy he was the week before. The decision making, he seemed paralyzed at times as to what to do. I think that's what got me is he just looked confused as to what to do. I'm sure he would tell me I'm wrong, and that's fine. But there were times where he had a pocket to throw from, and had time to get rid of the football, or had time to step up, and just didn't do any of those things. There were times where JC decided not to block anyone at all, and that was problematic. But there were just times where he just didn't look clear on what to do. And on top of that, when he did, his accuracy wasn't very good.
No, I totally agree. We were talking about that earlier, Corey, and that's what I wanted to ask you, because you talk about not having answers. Obviously, if you're a Titans fan, and you obviously you want Cam Ward to work out, you want to believe in him. You hope that some of that is like on the coaches, maybe in some instances for him not having answers. But my question for you is, because I totally agree, in the pocket at times yesterday, it was actually a pocket. He did not seem to realize it was a pocket. And so you get into the whole seeing ghosts thing, which I think we saw with Marcus Mariota as his career progressed. You see it with a lot of quarterbacks in this league when they don't trust the protection. And I just wonder if you thought yesterday was an example of that, of quote unquote seeing ghosts, and whether maybe just all of the beating he's taken, all the sacks and all the bad protection he has experienced is starting to affect him when he actually does have opportunities to throw.
Well, I mean, I might, except, why would it be worse after last week? I mean,
right.
Why would he be more hesitant to run after last week? I mean, that's why, maybe, I mean, that could be, but I don't know. I don't know if their coverage was confusing him, and so he just didn't know what was going on out there. He just didn't seem like he knew what to do with the football. The other thing is, I'll have to go back and look at their third downs. They had a lot of third and manageables that they didn't execute, because he threw a lot underneath yesterday. I mean, shoot, his average yards per attempt was like 3.5 by the time the game was over. But that's because he threw a lot of underneath stuff to where they would have 2nd and 6, 3rd and 4. They were very manageable. And that's why I was looking for him to run more yesterday, is because they were in more of these manageable situations where you escape the pocket and you move the chains. He had one late in the game, I think, where he finally went and did that, and he fought through and he moved the chains, because it was It was third and manageable. So I don't understand why that would be the case after last week. And again, a lot of these sacks are self-created. And I'm not saying them all. I mean, there are certainly times where there's nothing he can do. But there was time yesterday where he found pressure, okay, where he could have gotten rid of the ball, where he held on to it long enough for the pass rush, to get to him. And, there's times to get rid of it. And Mike McCoy talked last week about taking less hits, about getting rid of the ball sooner when he gets out of the pocket, and it was the total opposite. It was, and I guess I will just chalk it up to a rookie quarterback. You're going to get inconsistent play.
So, Corey, I agree with everything you just said, particularly yesterday. I mean, there were some plays that he didn't make where the pocket was there. Having said that, there are some snaps from J.C. Latham.
No, they're horrible.
That are just awful. And,
he got Tajay Spears killed.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and that was one of them I'm talking about where he just totally olayed on Josh Hines Allen, and he just got him smoked back there. I realize we're a little bit over a year and a half in now. So I'm not going to throw out the bust word, but it's pretty concerning with J.C. Latham at this point to me.
Well, the one question I've got is how hurt is he? Now, I know he's not showing up on the injury report, but is the hip still a problem? And then, yes or no on that is going to depend on how I feel about things. But my other problem is he's 6 and 350 pounds. And you would expect that guy to be a willing, combatant gladiator punishing people. And I don't see it. And I don't understand that. I don't understand how that guy isn't imposing his will on people smaller than he is. How he's getting pushed back by those guys. That's what makes me wonder if the hip is a problem, is because he's getting put on skates by some of these guys and having a hard time anchoring his base at times. He's too big and too strong to struggle to anchor his base against smaller opponents. So I really have to wonder if something is going on there, because yesterday wasn't good enough.
So, Corey, some interesting comments. Obvious frustration and understandable frustration from the locker room, but you got Cam Ward talking about we haven't made any strides, but some of the comments from Jeffrey Simmons talking about basically said we got to get a coach in here, which of course is coming, but even like Arden Key, I have no idea what he's talking about, but it was cryptic, and it just seems like yesterday really rubbed the play. Do you take that as players sick of Mike McCoy, or is that am I making too much of a leap with that?
Look, I don't care if they're sick of Mike McCoy or not. They're making excuses for playing absolutely horrible. All right, they need to look in the mirror before they look at the interim head coach. Okay, when the interim head coach got the job, it was to get the team across the finish line and then go get a new coach. So if you're going to blame the interim head coach for why you didn't play well, I've got pushback with that. Look in the mirror, play better, be ready to play, be ready to compete, be ready to be disciplined. Is it Mike McCoy's fault that Arden Key gets in a fight on the sideline and gives up 3 points for his team? No, it's not. That's all on Arden Key. Jeffrey Simmons always plays well. I don't have a problem with that, but just I didn't expect Mike McCoy to be perfect. I don't think he's as bad as everyone else thinks he is, because everybody picks apart every little thing he does. He took over a bad football team. Okay. He's not the NFL coach of the year. He's not Ken Wisenhunt. Okay. He's there to get them across the finish line. And if you guys were looking for him to come in here and resurrect the team, like Alex Golish down in South Florida, who took a team from horrible to 9 wins this year, and to do it in 9 games or whatever, I'm sorry. He doesn't have that magic wand. Okay. He doesn't have that magic wand. You guys have to show up every day and work and have some self accountability for it. That rubs me the wrong way.
So, Corey, Vanderbilt waltzes into Neyland Stadium and just thumps
Yeah.
Tennessee in the second half. They win 45-24. They get their first 10-win season in program history. Pavia is going to be right in the thick of the Heisman Trophy conversation. What did you make of particularly how dominant they were in the second half and where things kind of fall now in the college football playoff picture front?
Well, I mean, the fact that they were able to overcome 2 first-half turnovers and still lay a 21-point beating on them is really impressive. Is really impressive because it's not like Tennessee has rolled over. They played well, to finish the year, and so they were coming in there to win that football game. And Vanderbilt, clearly was a team on a mission and didn't let anything distract from what that mission was. And as far as Pavia goes, I got a couple things. But first with Pavia, I don't get how he can't be higher in the Heisman. He is like 1,000 yards ahead of those other guys that he's up against in total. So if you want to point at stats and say, well, he doesn't have Heisman stats, he is like 1,000 yards ahead of all of those guys in total yards. He's got more touchdowns than all of those guys, and he is more important to his team than any of those guys are to their team. I don't think any of those guys come to Vanderbilt and win 10 games this year. I'm sorry. I've watched this team for a long time. All right. I think I know what I'm talking about a little bit here. I mean, what he's done both physically, mentally, and emotionally to change that football team, he is a huge part of it. And for him not to be a higher Heisman consideration for some people is crazy. And then the other thing about Vanderbilt is if there's a power T on the side of their helmet with their resume, they're in the college football playoff.
No, that's not true. No, I totally agree with you on Pavia, 100%. That you are not. That's not true, Corey. If they end up with no rank,
I'm going to listen to you, Joe. That's fine. What is it about their resume that's not good enough?
Well, they don't have. I mean, we'll see if Tennessee stays in the rankings, but if
they're
don't,
they're not in the rankings.
Okay. Then they're going to have no ranked wins, Corey.
Well, but they had 4 teams that were ranked when they beat them.
But Corey, you know how this works
on their schedule. Yeah, I know how it works. Teams
right.
lose.
So if
Vanderbilt beats them when they drop out of the rankings.
No, South Carolina was supposed to be good this year. That should have been a huge win. They sucked. So that win doesn't count for you. So compare their resume to the other teams. Like I'm not trying to downgrade Vanderbilt here, but it's not a helmet scouting situation. It's not. It's the resume. No, it's unfortunate for them. It's bad luck.
Starting the year unranked and having to work your way back in. And being historically bad hurts them.
I mean, I think it probably hurts them with some people.
With 3 losses.
Right, Corey, but Texas beat Vanderbilt, and Texas also played at Ohio State and lost by a touchdown. Now, the Florida loss should count against Texas.
It was horrible.
No, and they just beat number 3. So they have wins that Vanderbilt does not have, including against Vanderbilt. I mean, that's fine. I mean, we could
never going to agree on Texas over Vanderbilt.
I mean, I agree with you, Corey, that there are people who have a bias against Vanderbilt, and probably in that committee room too, it's Vanderbilt, and like you said, they weren't supposed to be good. But if you really seriously compare the resumes and the wins and the losses, Vanderbilt got a raw deal that South Carolina sucked, that LSU sucked, that Missouri faded, that Oklahoma all of a sudden makes these that's not helmet scouting. That's the breaks. The breaks were bad.
But don't you think beating those teams is a part of what led to their meltdowns?
I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
not necessarily. I mean, I think that the problem with Missouri is that they. They just weren't.
Was top 10. There were some people who thought that was a talented football team.
Right, but their meltdown started well before Vanderbilt, didn't it?
They were ranked 10th in the country when they played the Commodores.
Yeah, I mean,
so I guess they haven't melted down too far.
Missouri lost their QB in that game. Some of it is bad luck, on that front. I mean, South Carolina was a disaster this year. I mean, I don't think that Vanderbilt broke them. They're just a disaster.
Yes, it's unfortunate. And you know what? It just gives us more ammunition for a 16-team playoff. Because
thank God.
Make it 24. Let's go 24.
I've always been good with 12 to 16. If you want to go to 24, that's fine. Because I've never felt like that many teams could actually compete for the title. But with NIL,
I don't want 24.
But I think things with NIL, more teams can compete now. I do that. But that doesn't mean I think 2 group of 5 teams can play, but we'll see.
We'll see. 615-737-1025, our phone number.
That will be interesting.
Corey, great stuff as always. We got a big showdown coming up next week with the Packers and the Bears. We'll see if we're on speaking terms come Monday morning.
We'll see who the top seed in the NFC is after next week.
That's true.
Because right now, that team resides in the Windy City.
That is true. I cannot argue with facts. That is true.
Okay, I know you guys have to go, and I'm not making this a Chicago Bears conversation. I'm making this an NFL conversation. This league is so week to week this year.
It's pretty wild.
I mean to see Philly go down at home,
except for the
Bears like that, they did not look good. To see the Rams lose at Carolina, I don't know who's going to do what. I really don't. It is a crazy week to week league this year. This is the year to be a 6 or 7 seed and make a run in the playoffs. It literally is going to be who's ever playing the best ball in January. That's the team.
Corey, thank you, sir.
All right, later.
Corey Curtis, brought to you by Tennessee Men's Clinic. Lots to react to there from Corey. We'll do that coming up next. Vanderbilt takes down Tennessee on the road. They thump them in the second half. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. This holiday season, 102.5 The Game, looking out for the kiddos. We're going to donate a bunch of stuffed toys to the Nashville Children's Alliance to be given to kids this holiday season, but we can't do it without you. Join us at a Dunkin' location near your neighborhood the week of December the 8th through the 12th to drop off a stuffed toy that a child will love. You can find the locations now at thegamenashville.com/toy. Again, thegamenashville.com/toy. Also, we'd like to thank the Metro Nashville Police Department for their help on this promotion as well. Taking your thoughts on what Corey Curtis had to say. Vanderbilt waltzes into Neyland Stadium and just punks Tennessee in the second half. They win 45-24. Vanderbilt picks up their first 10-win season in program history, and now the college football playoff discussion underway. Joe, we went through the picture earlier. It's looking pretty unlikely that Vanderbilt is going to get in the college football playoff. They frankly just didn't get a whole lot of help this weekend, and there are a lot of teams that they needed to lose that did not lose. Oklahoma looked like they were in trouble and then figured it out. Alabama looked like they could be in some trouble against Auburn, and then they pulled it out at the end there. So after a 10-2 season, Joe, and playing, I think, clearly their best football at the end of the year here, it doesn't feel like Vanderbilt is going to make the college football playoff at this point.
No, listen, you never know what people in that committee room will think. I think that they should look at Vanderbilt and understand that what they did at Tennessee is not normal. Like, no one does that. Do they have that discussion in there? Do they have that context in there? That two teams have blown out Tennessee and Josh Heupel's tenure at Neyland Stadium. They are the 2021 and 2023 Georgia teams. 2021 Georgia team, one of the great teams that we've seen in recent years. That's it. He usually wins, and if he does lose, it's more like missing a field goal that would have beat Georgia this year and losing overtime. So there should be stock put in to what Vanderbilt just did. Will there be? I don't know. I think there should be stock put into Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt offense. I would argue right now, and I know there's a bias here. This is Nashville Sports Radio. I've been around Vanderbilt football a lot, so there's some bias here, and there's someone who could step up and say, hold on, you're not thinking of this team. But I've thought about it, and if you give me any offense to take into the college football playoff right now, I'm taking Vanderbilt's offense. I understand that Ohio State has two star receivers, and they've got a quarterback who's really good, but also, if you watch the Michigan game, you want to get in the Heisman discussion, Robby? Julian Sand, he's really good. The dude stood there with no pressure and threw to wide open receivers, and that's what he's done all year. He has not faced a hint of game pressure. He has the best defense in college football on the other side. He is the most advantaged quarterback in the country.
The Carnell Tate touchdown, I don't know if there's a Michigan player within 15 yards of him.
Right. I mean, it's like you could have punted it to him. So, I hate to knock Julian Sand for that, but, there's no comparison. I'm totally with Corey on that. I'm Pavia for the Heisman. I think the committee should take that into account. This offense, I mean, what you're supposed to ask is, can this team win games? Yes, you're judging resume, but also we know they're judging what they think a team is. They're judging, I think this team's really good. That's what they've been doing with Notre Dame. They should do it with Vanderbilt, and it's offense in particular, and this game should be a signal. It ends a season in which they're at the top of the charts, and like most offensive stats nationally, they're right under 40 points a game against a team with, I think, going into this weekend, 6 top 26 scoring defenses in the country. Really good defenses. So you hope, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, that they have this discussion and just reset things. But when it comes down to it, and this is where I disagree with Corey, this isn't them. I mean, if they don't get in, if you compare the resumes, the problem is the wins that just don't hold value right now, and that's how you have to do it. I'm sorry. I understand they have 3 top 15 wins this season, which is a program record. And I mean, maybe Corey's right. Maybe some of those wins, hurt the teams they beat. Whatever. That's not part of this. Are those wins valuable now? And the fact is that teams they're competing against have wins that are more valuable now on their resumes.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I don't think there's anything that's arguable there, except, I mean, the one I keep coming back to is Notre Dame and Vanderbilt pretty close, man. I understand that USC is ranked 17th in the college football playoff rankings. I mean, you tell me, who wins on a neutral field, USC or Tennessee? I know my answer. It ain't USC. So, like, some of this is, I think, a little bit more nuanced than just USC's ranked 17th. There's a rank win for Notre Dame, and Vanderbilt doesn't have one.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think they're very close. Those teams should be very close. Vanderbilt and Miami, Vanderbilt and Texas. Like Corey's dismissing. I mean, look, I tweeted like Texas probably would be ahead of Vanderbilt now. I mean, it's a really interesting discussion because Texas beat Vanderbilt, and yes, it was a 3-point game. But if you watch that game, like they were handling whatever, it ends up a 3-point game. Fine, so they beat them. They lost by a touchdown at Ohio State. Any Texas fan will say, "Well, see, if we would have scheduled Sam Houston State, then we'd be 10-2 and there'd be no discussion." That's fine. They lost by a touchdown there. They just beat number 3, which, by the way, Texas A&M played none of the top, I think, 7 or 8 teams. This is a lot of this is how stupid these massive conferences are. This is that's the underlying problem here, right? But I mean, Texas, but then you also have the loss at Florida. Vanderbilt has 2 good losses. They lost at Bama, they lost at Texas. Florida has the disgusting loss at Florida. So how do you – I mean, I think it's a really close discussion with Oklahoma, with Texas, with Miami, with all those teams. Utah, I think Vanderbilt should be ahead of Utah for sure. But I unless the committee has discussions that – and I think they should really dig in on Vanderbilt. But unless there's some changes of heart based on what we've seen so far, then I think Vanderbilt's just going to be on the outside looking in tomorrow night. And then, really no drama for the championship weekend.
We'll take your thoughts on Vanderbilt's win at Tennessee, the college football playoff discussion, Diego Pavia, and the Heisman Trophy. All of it coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Chase and Big Joe will be broadcasting live at the all-new Circa Sportsbook Kentucky in the Mint Gaming Hall today prior to the Monday Night Football game. Monday night matchup, the Giants taking on Vrabel and the Patriots. We'll see how that goes for Jameis Winston out there tonight. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Vanderbilt waltzes into Tennessee and destroys the Vols in the second half. We'll get into what that means for Josh Heupel on the Vols going up here in just a few minutes. You know, Joe, I know there's a limitation on what you can say being a Heisman Trophy voter, so stop me if I'm getting too nosy here. But I don't care. Well, the Diego Pavia part of this, like, you know, he threw the 2 picks early in the game, and I was like, well, you know, it looks like the Heisman could be unraveling here. And then he was just darn near perfect after that, right? Like, he made every right decision. He threw for 268. He ran for an additional 150 on the ground. Like, he was incredible in that game. So I know that conference championship weekend is coming up and the votes aren't going to be held until after that. But I have to think Diego Pavia has put himself right in the thick of the Heisman Trophy race. Not just the finalist race, but the win.
He should win the Heisman. He's the most outstanding player in college. I think he's the best player. I think he's the best player in college football. And I don't want to disrespect Vanderbilt and what Clark Lee has done to, you know, adding a talent like Trey Richardson, for example. Cedric Alexander is a really good running back. Their offensive line dominated Tennessee. They have some good players on defense, and they've had some good defensive performances. You know, Lee, his coaching staff. I mean, like, there's a lot of credit to go around. But if you do the whole take him off the team, if you took Diego Pavia and the way he's able to, again, I equate him to a point guard who is constantly running like a 2-on-1 break and is perfect at drawing defense and then making the perfect pass for a lob, dunk, or a layup. He's just out there. They had the one play, like, it was almost like a jump pass. It looked like it was a QB draw, and then right before he gets to the line, you know, he rips it to a wide. I think it was Stowers on that play. It's just infuriating to deal with the guy. If you took him off Vanderbilt, I think Vanderbilt is like a 6-win team, like something like that. I mean, again, like, you got to tell me who's playing quarterback. I mean, you got to have really good quarterback play to even get to that. He's the best player in college football, and he's done, again, like, just what he does and what he has done for that team. Yes, there's a bigger picture. Some Heisman voters don't want to get into Vanderbilt's history and a 2-year thing of, like, changing the mindset. Okay, fine. I still say he's the best player in college football, and the numbers say it now. Like Corey said, his total offense and touchdowns accounted for, they blow everybody else away. So it's just their yards per play. Again, they have been kind of screwed over with the playoff with how some of their opponents have fared. But they have still played a lot of really high-ranking defenses who have high-ranking defenses in the SEC, and Vanderbilt is shredding them. So Sayin, I won't even listen to, man. I'm not listening to Sayin. He's really good. He is the most advantaged quarterback in the country. I can't – he hasn't had a snap of pressure this year, like game pressure. He seriously has not. It's just no. Now, Fernando Mendoza, as I think Ohio State might actually beat the crap out of Indiana Saturday. Like, Ohio State,
boy,
we might just
Signetti mad. You're going to make it mad.
Yeah. Hey, I hope not. I hope it's a great game. It's like this great game with no stakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like basically the winner will be the 1 seed and the loser will be like the 4 seed, and they'll get a.
We're going to have to get rid of conference championship weekend. Yeah, it's becoming pretty clear. We're going to have to get rid of it.
Yeah. It's just, but I mean, I would assume that at least with this game, these teams should be excited for it. I mean, it is for a championship. Indiana has his last one, a Big Ten championship, like what, 1967. So I guess from their perspective, like, wouldn't it be huge?
I'm sure they're fired. Yeah, I'm sure they're fired up about it.
But at all of it, the conference thing just is so diluted by 29 teams in these leagues all over. But anyway, if Mendoza does ridiculous things Saturday night, because I'm not submitting my vote until after this weekend. If he does absurd things and single-handedly carries Indiana to a win in a game where it's clear it's a mismatch, maybe other than him, then I think he's got to get strong consideration. Jeremiah Love right now, he's great. I think he should be in New York. But yeah, right now I think Diego Pavia should win the dang thing. I think he should, and it's going to be interesting to see. I'm very interested to see the results of our staff poll.
Yep.
Last week Pavia got 5 firsts. We'll see if he gets more. I know Stu Mandel and I are 2 that gave him firsts. And then, and we'll see if this weekend changes it. And just if people around the country think the same thing, because obviously this is a very regional vote, and maybe Big Ten people are like, no, it's saying he's the quarterback on the best team. Saying's like their 6th best player, dude. Diego Pavia is not Vanderbilt's 6th best. You can't be the not best player on your team and win the Heisman, can you?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, it seems to go be counterproductive to the actual award there, but we've seen it happen before. Let's head back to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Kenny the mailman to the program. Kenny, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hello, good friends. Fighting sinuses and exhaustion. I don't know if I've slept well since Saturday night.
Big night for Kenny.
I can't really describe to you what it means for a longtime Vandy fan to be able to go and win in Knoxville. It's only happened like 4 times since I've been alive, and I'm not a spring chicken. I have so much respect for playing in Neyland and Tennessee. I'd like for Joe to explain to me, you go to a team that's ranked 17th, beat them by 3 touchdowns, you're sitting on the ball, just letting the time run out, and then you wake up and the AP voters have dropped them from 12th to 13th. How does something like that happen?
That's a good question. I don't know. I will say that my guy and our friend of the show, Ralph Russo, had him 15 this week. I mean, I may have to have a in-house mutiny there. Because that's silly. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
it happens in life, because if you graduate from a prestigious school and everything, it's above different things and getting jobs and everything. But if someone had an Alabama helmet on and they did that to them, there would only be 49 states in the union today. I mean, you just look at people and go, what? You expect things to be fair, but nobody will be able to take that win away at all. It was just unbelievable for us. But I do think they would change the name to the College Invitational Tournament, because what they do, y'all seen archery contests where they have the red, yellow, and green circles you shoot the arrow into, right? Well, what they do, they just put up a blank target, shoot an arrow, run down there, draw a little circle, and yell, bullseye, Notre Dame fans. If it is what it is, just say, hey, you've made us invite 2 smaller teams, but we need millions and millions of views for the television rights and everything. The rest of them we're going to invite who we want. Because I'm firmly convinced Texas will be ahead of Vandy when the next ratings come out. So, but nobody will ever take this away from us. We're going to get the DVD, hat, and T-shirt, and it has been just an amazing season beyond description.
Thank you,
Have
Kenny.
a great day.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the call.
Thanks, Kenny.
Yeah, like it's
good perspective.
It's good perspective, and I said it earlier. The biggest thing about it was it was not a fluke, them walking in there and just kicking Tennessee's butt. I was watching the game at the press box at Bridgestone Arena, and I looked around at a couple people that were there at halftime, and I was like, well, Diego Pavia has thrown 2 picks, and it's 21-21 at the half. That is probably not good news for Tennessee. And boy, was that not good news for Tennessee, Joe. I mean, they just killed them in the second half.
No doubt. And, from Kenny's point there, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, I know right now it's obviously it sucks. Your team's probably not getting the playoff, and your team's good enough to be in the playoff. And your team's good enough to do damage in the playoff. But you also hope that you can still appreciate what your team just did in Knoxville, the season your team just had, the history it made, the potential for a program that now actually has a shot to be competitive and to hang in there and be a winning program moving forward. You hope that you can keep those things in perspective. And maybe if Pavia wins a Heisman, that helps too, I would think, right? But it's like the playoff has become such the obvious dominant discussion point of this entire sport. It just stinks. Like this resume last year, there's no question. Vanderbilt is in the field.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Final thoughts on Vanderbilt's win at Tennessee. Plus, what does this mean for Josh Heupel and the Vols moving forward? We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Tonight on Totally Hits 93.3, catch MTSU men's basketball as the Blue Raiders take on UAB at 6:30. Coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at TotallyHitsNashville.com. Vanderbilt wins 45-24 against the Vols in Neyland Stadium, their first 10-win season in program history. So, Joe, we've gone through the Vanderbilt side of this. What about the Vols? What does this mean for Josh Heupel and the company? They finish 8-4. We'll see where they end up in the bowl game, but 8-4. A lot of conversation in the immediate aftermath of the game about Tim Banks, defensive coordinator, what his future is going to be. Does Heupel make a staff change? Are more staff changes coming? Even maybe beyond that. And, I said it last week, Joe, the difference in narrative heading into the offseason for this game, pretty darn massive. If you win, you're 9-3. And you close out the season on a high note, and you're looking at what's coming back next year in the roster, and you're feeling pretty good if you're a Tennessee fan. You lose, and it ain't going to be comfortable for Heupel heading into next year. And I think that's exactly where we are right now, Joe. So what do you make of where things go from here from Josh Heupel?
Yeah, it's going to be a huge offseason. I can't, like you talked earlier about, we should fire Tim Banks. I could see that, and maybe he should. I think that some sort of staff move is, I hate to say necessary, because again, I just don't know. Like, I don't know all the stuff behind the scenes. We were talking last week about, maybe just getting Boo Carter out of there. Look at what they did at Florida, right? And then you see this defensive performance against Vanderbilt, against, again, an offense that I think can take it to any defense in the sport, which is part of, again, why it's a shame. We're probably not going to see that in the playoff. But still, it's been a disappointing defensive year. So I just think that some kind of move with the staff makes sense. He knows better than anybody else what that is. The question you have is the coaching fine, and that's why he doesn't do anything, or is he almost too much like, I'm not going to be like Bob Stoops who scapegoated me when at one point I was supposed to be the heir apparent. I'm not doing that to somebody else. I mean, I can see that being the case. Problem is, like, sometimes you just have to do it. You have to improve your staff, So there's that. And then you mentioned earlier, Robby, the portal. Should they be more active in the portal? I would definitely say they need to be active, and they need to be effective at some significant ads, while also, of course, you always have to retain your players. If they just retain their players with how they've been recruiting, they look good on paper next year, as long as quarterback play is good. But it's a critical offseason. It's a critical season next year for Josh Heupel. It does not take long, certainly in today's college football and in the SEC and at Tennessee, for someone to go from a ice cold seat to a hot seat.
No, it doesn't. And, again, this is also part of college football playoff expansion. Like, if you miss the playoff and you're a program like Tennessee, well, if you miss it 2 years in a row next year, that's a problem, right? Like, your fan base. And look, I understand Tennessee's got an extreme fan base anyway, but your fan base is going to freak out if that's the case. And look, I don't blame Tennessee fans, by the way. Let me be clear. Like, they're getting all this money from Adidas. All my timeline on Vol Twitter is right now is yelling at Danny White about talent fees and this being the payoff for it. Like, Danny White's in the crosshair right now, too, of the Tennessee fan base. So when you're doing all this stuff, like, you better win. And bottom line is, there's a lot of things, like, go back a calendar year from the college football playoff until now with this Tennessee football program. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on, right? You've had the whole Nico thing, and quarterback situation with Joey Aguilar worked out pretty well in the long run. But at the end of it, you look at the schedule, they basically played 4 good teams this year. I mean, by their records, they ended up playing 4 good teams, and they lost every one of them, and 3 of them were at home. That's a problem, and that's something that's got to get fixed. And we went through the schedule earlier. It ain't going to be easy for Tennessee next year. They got a lot of high-profile games next year. So it's a critical offseason for Heupel. Kind of feels like a little bit of a crossroads moment for him as Tennessee coach.
Yeah, and you mentioned Danny White. It's he has not endeared himself to a lot of people. He's very good at what he does. He raises money. He's done a lot of good things. Heupel was his hire. Kim Caldwell, they got beat by like 20-something yesterday by a very good UCLA team, but that was his hire. Obviously, he didn't hire he lost Vitello. I don't know that you should blame him, but fans are mad at him. Like he could be under, like you said, like under some fire himself, at least from the fan base, depending on how things go. And yeah, look, it's a huge next few months, and it's very interesting to me, Robbie, just with considering the weight of next season, the difficulty of the schedule too. Very difficult.
Yep.
Lots of them at home, which you feel good about, but they just lost 3 games at home. Does Heupel feel like one of these young quarterbacks, a redshirt freshman or a true freshman, can win enough for him, or does he go out there and which is guaranteeing him to lose at least one of them, by the way? So as a future play, you could argue against it, but does he feel he needs to get out there for one of the top possible quarterbacks and pay big to bring in a veteran?
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting decision because they're going to have a very talented roster coming back next year. Do you want either a redshirt freshman or a true freshman quarterback leading the way on that front? That is going to be something that he's got to figure out. Bottom line, it's a disappointing end result for Tennessee. It's a season, as Kenny the Mailman just laid out, to remember, regardless of the college football playoff or not, for Vanderbilt fans. 10 wins. Clark Lee gets the extension, so you don't have to worry about him going anywhere. And Diego Pavia very well could be in the running. I mean, he's in the running. Well, he very well could win the Heisman Trophy. So what a weekend for Vanderbilt and Tennessee. We'll see if they can rebound and get back in the college football playoff discussion next year. Joe, a lot happened while we were gone. It was fun to discuss it all this morning.
No doubt. Sorry I yelled earlier.
Maybe tomorrow we'll spend like an hour and a half yelling about group of 5 playoff teams. That'll be fun. Looking forward to that. That does it for us today. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.